Hey, what's up, everybody? My name's Bryce. Welcome to Cross Culture, where we engage culture with Christ by addressing culture's most pressing problems from a Christian perspective. We want to let the gospel be a voice within culture in order to transform culture into kingdom culture. Today, we're addressing one of the biggest problems in today's culture. It's the problem of mental health and anxiety. According to the American Psychiatric Association, in one of their latest polls, 67% of Americans say they're anxious about current events, including job stability, safety, and climate concerns. And globally, the World Health Organization reports that over 1 billion people are living with mental health conditions like anxiety and depression. And so the reality is that is staggering, and it shows how widespread the struggle has become. And so here on Cross Culture, we want to provide a gospel response. What is the gospel response to this overwhelming and obvious problem of mental health and anxiety in today's culture? And with our culture's overwhelming struggle with mental health, what if I told you that Christianity doesn't offer some magical fix or solution to all of our problems, but rather it offers the best possible solution and approach for navigating and dealing with those problems? See, the Bible does not deny our suffering. It doesn't deny trouble. It doesn't deny the trials that we go through. In fact, Elijah prayed for death. David poured out despair in the Psalms. Paul wrote in 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 8, despaired of life itself. Christianity does not demand performance or some facade or persona that pretends that we have it all put together. It doesn't, but rather it offers presence. It offers presence. Jesus says in John chapter 14, verse 27, peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. See, Jesus is offering his presence with us. That's not a fleeting claim. That's a deep soul anchoring peace. The peace that knows, man, all my problems might not disappear, but I have someone with me and within me that can help me cope and navigate and go through those problems so that I'm not alone. And so what does Christianity practically offer to help us deal with this struggle? Well, first, we also have to realize that we have the gift of the church. What is meant to be more like a hospital than a stage? Again, I want to say that again. The church is meant to be more like a hospital than a stage. We bear one another's burdens. That's Galatians chapter 6, verse 2. We pray with each other. We remind each other of the hope that we have in Jesus, that one day we will not struggle the way that we struggle now. The church is not some building with four walls that you go to and you check things off a list and you perform certain things, but rather it is a family of blood-bought believers in Jesus who love one another and care for one another. And we need the church because this world does have troubles. I mean, Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 9 through 10 acknowledges this. It says, two are better than one because they have a good reward for their toil. For if they fall, one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him who is alone when he falls and has not another to lift him up. That's Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 9 through 10. And so I want to invite you to think of the redwood trees in California and think of how big they are, how massive they are. These are giant trees, prehistoric trees in some ways. They last for hundreds of years, and some believe even have existed during the time of Jesus himself 2,000 years ago. They are hundreds of feet tall. They're dozens and dozens of feet wide in diameter. And so what's amazing about the redwoods, that although they're that large, they're planted in an area in the world where there's huge gale storms and there's fierce winds, and they have to endure a lot. And yet their root system only goes 6 to 12 feet deep. So hundreds of feet tall, dozens of feet wide, and only a couple of feet deep. And so we wonder, how do they survive? How do they endure all the trouble, all the fierce winds and storms with where they're located? It's because you'll never find a redwood tree planted alone. The reality is the redwood trees are an illustration of us as people. We need one another because the roots of the redwoods, they don't go deep, but they go out and they interlocked with one another. They interconnect with one another. When they need nutrients, they can send nutrients to the area in which needs the nutrients. And that is like us. That's like the church that God designed. God desired a place, a home, a family in which we could belong and provide for one another in the times of the storms, in the times of trouble. And so we have the church. So the reality is, we're not alone. And Christianity doesn't deny our suffering, but rather it acknowledges it. And it gives us a family of believers in which we can belong to and lean on during our times of trouble. But also Christianity offers a hope for our struggle with mental health and anxiety because we are not alone in that. Jesus himself understands what it's like to experience deep anxiety and agony. In Luke's account of the gospel in chapter 22, verse 44, it says, "And being in agony, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down to the ground." That word agony that Luke uses is a medical term to describe his condition that he was in. Jesus was in so much anxiety, so much agony that he actually, as Luke describes it, began to sweat drops of blood. Now, that's a real thing that happens in death row victims or people who have irregulated blood pressure. When people are on death row and they're so anxious and they have so much anxiety, they actually begin to excrete blood in some cases from their pores. Jesus understands what it's like to experience deep distress and anxiety and agony, as Luke puts it. And so if you're anxious today, you're not alone. You're not less of a person or a Christian for feeling anxiety. The gospel doesn't erase anxiety, but it gives you a companion within it. Jesus, God himself, which is good news. And so understand this. You're loved. You're not alone. And Christianity offers what we need to be able to navigate through the troubles of life, including mental health and anxiety. And I wonder what would happen within our culture today if we allowed Jesus into our lives more and more and began to allow him to carry the burdens that we carry and to walk alongside with us and to connect with him during our times of trouble and anxiousness. I wonder what would happen within our life and within our culture. If you're watching this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, share this with a friend, and remind those you know who are struggling with this issue that they're not alone and that hopefully there's a local church that can provide them shelter and home and care, resources, help, counseling, whatever it might be, and that Jesus is with them and understands where they're at. They're loved. Thank you for watching Cross Culture. Until next time, God bless.